Welcome back to Spring Day 16, Year 2 of the Stardew Valley Min-Max and 100% Perfection Guide. Today, we'll be taking on Key's Hungry Challenge from the Golden Walnut Room, where we have to make it to floor 100 in Skull Cavern without eating any items, so that means no easy healing for us. Normally, when we grind Skull Cavern, we tank lots of hits from the enemies because it ends up being faster than trying to slay them or avoid them. So in this dive, we'll have to adapt a completely different strategy, which should end up being quite interesting. But before we head on over to Skull Cavern, we'll actually have to pick up the challenge from the Golden Walnut Room on Ginger Island, and we'll also have to harvest the ready rhubarbs and strawberries on our farm. Today is a super luck day, and we would normally go to Skull Cavern right away to take advantage of that, but unfortunately it is also a rainy day, so our Junimos won't come out of their huts to harvest our crops for us, so we will have to manually harvest them today. For crops like the coffee, I would normally skip harvesting them and let the Junimos harvest them on the next day, but for the rhubarbs and strawberries, they are on a tight schedule, and missing one day will lose us a whole harvest for the season. Unlike the strawberries, the rhubarbs don't grow back, so we will be planting seeds in their place, and I decided on planting blue jazz, and after these grow, another round of rhubarbs will take us to the last day of spring. After grabbing some items from our chests, we leave the farm at 6:10 a.m. and head over to the town. Since we have the key to the town, we can enter buildings at any time, but sometimes at the shop vendors like Pierre's, we cannot actually interact to buy and sell unless the NPC is actually standing behind the counter. This is why we left so early in the morning, because we do find Pierre standing at the counter right when the day starts, but around 7 a.m. or so he will leave the counter and not come back until 9 a.m. when the store is actually supposed to open. We sell 29 Gold Star Starfruit to Pierre to gain 35,000 G, which we will use to buy 271 Blue Jazz seeds right now, and I was also gonna use the rest to buy some rhubarb seeds, but I think I end up forgetting to do that later today. We exit Pierre's store and head down to the special orders board, where we must decide between the strong stuff for Pam or Evelyn's gifts for George. Completing Pam's quest would unlock us the fishing channel on the TV, which is not very useful for us, so I decide on Evelyn's quest, since completing it will reward us a coffee maker, which gives us a free coffee every day, which is not much, but better than a TV channel. After that, we head down to the beach and collect all the beach forageables, harvest and rebait the crab pots, then enter Willie's shack to buy a ticket to Ginger Island. Once we are at Ginger Island, we take the Parrot Express to the jungle and head up to Leo's hut, where we give him a duck feather. Next, we travel to the dig site to mine some bone nodes, and then head over to the island farm. This west portion of Ginger Island here is the only place we can find the snake vertebrae fossil, and it has a 22.5% chance to be found from the artifact spots here. We have found one previously, but we need one more to complete the snake skeleton, which will fully finish the field office once we find that. The big problem is most of the dirt where artifact spots spawn is currently being occupied by our starfruit, so with the small amount of dirt on the left side of the river here, I make sure to pickaxe the ground so that the dirt becomes untilled and will give an artifact spot a chance to spawn. Hopefully, at least. Anyway, we head into the Golden Walnut Room and must decide between Key's Hungry Challenge and Key's Cuisine. We all know which one I end up choosing, and the reason I did not choose Key's Cuisine is because shipping 100,000 G worth of cooked items seems like quite a bit, since cooked items don't usually sell for all that much. However, if triple shot espresso counted towards that, which I think it does, we could have potentially crafted a bunch of coffee into triple shot and sold all of that. But that's alright, we choose Key's Hungry Challenge to make it to floor 100 in Skull Cavern without eating or drinking any item, which will be a better challenge and more fun to complete. While we're here, and since we have all the island upgrades now, we exchange some of our golden walnuts for some key gems. We warp on back to the main farm and get our stuff organized, cycle some machinery, collect the crystallarium jades, and then begin harvesting the grown rhubarbs and replanting them with the blue jazz seeds at the same time. The blue jazz can make for a nice and easy gift for NPCs since flowers are liked by most, and we could also use the blue jazz for lucky lunches if we wanted to, but I don't see myself using lucky lunches very much. The main reason I planted the blue jazz is because they grow in 4 days for a harvest on day 20, which leaves the perfect amount of time to plant rhubarbs on day 20, which will grow in 8 days for a harvest on day 28, the last day of spring. After planting all the blue jazz seeds, we begin harvesting the strawberries. The strawberries are also on a perfect schedule, where they will regrow every 4 days, and then the last harvest lines up on the last day of spring. This is why we had to harvest the strawberries today and couldn't skip a day, since pushing the harvest 1 day forward would lose us an entire harvest overall, since the last harvest is on the last day. After harvesting all the strawberries, we collect the roe from our fish pond, then get our inventory ready for Skull Cavern and warp on over to the desert. We collect some coconut and cactus fruit forageables, which we drop in our Junimo chest along with our horse flute to clear up some inventory space. Then we go ahead and enter Skull Cavern. This Skull Cavern dive will definitely be an unusual one, since we cannot consume any food or drink items. Like, the game actually forbids you from doing so, rather than just failing the challenge if you do. You are actually locked from doing so, which is good in the sense that we won't accidentally eat something and fail the challenge, but bad because we cannot emergency heal if our health gets dangerously low, so we do have to be extra careful. This first floor was not too dangerous with only one mummy, and we were able to get a ladder down using a bomb, so hopefully our usual assessments of whether or not to use a bomb, the explosive slingshot, mine rocks with the pickaxe, or even slay enemies with the napalm ring, all that can be applied to this run, although we must be extra careful with bombs because they can damage us, and of course slaying enemies is extra dangerous because we can easily take damage from them. We will also, of course, take advantage of pausing the game in our inventory screen to freeze the in-game time, which allows us time to think, and we will be doing this a lot when we go down a ladder and first enter a floor, not only because it gives us time to look at the floor and assess what strategy we want to act on it, but also it technically saves us a small amount of time because we can pause the game before the screen fades in and the screen will finish fading while the game is paused. We will also take advantage of swapping our rings as usual to get the different benefits of the luck and magnetism at most times, and then swap to the monster slaying rings when we are slaying enemies. I know a whole lot of pausing can get a bit bothering, but it is necessary to make the most of the in-game time, and I do try to cut out most of the time spent pausing and in my inventory screen. And I did also live stream this day, which means my mind was multitasking gameplay and talking, so that definitely adds to all the pausing. But if you are interested in checking out that live stream, I will leave a link to that. We make good progress and are now on floor 18, where we find a bunch of mummies, and with the mummies I'm generally going to try to avoid them since they deal quite a bit of damage, and when there are quite a few like this, they can be quite hard to avoid. I did lay a bomb with no ladder luck, and whenever I do lay the bombs, I have to make sure to get out of the way as fast as possible because we don't want to take any damage from the explosion. The Master Slingshot with the explosive ammo is a bit more reliable since we won't take any damage from it if we shoot at rocks from a distance, so it does seem to be the safer choice. And of course I find the slingshot to be faster than other rock clearing methods as long as the rocks are close to a wall or an enemy that the shot can actually collide with and explode on. We're having pretty bad luck on this floor, so I end up giving in and using a crafted staircase, which may be necessary if we want to make it to floor 100, but I will try to use as few as possible. We get down to floor 19, and I notice that my spicy eel buff has worn off. What could have been smart was to use one right before we entered Skull Cavern so we could have the full buff duration, but I forgot to do that, and eventually our coffee buff will wear off, so we will be very slow, which is definitely different than usual, because usually we have the +2 speed in Skull Cavern. You might also notice that slime had a heart in it, and earlier I had gotten a heart pickup, so if we do need to heal, we can slay those slimes and get the hearts from it, but I end up ignoring it since we already got a ladder down, and we will skip this floor as well, because that is a long floor that is very unreliable to find a ladder on usually, so I end up skipping it, and we make it down to floor 21, and here I try to use the explosive slingshot a little bit to deal some damage to that slime and explode some rocks, but really the explosive slingshot does a lot less damage compared to using the hammer. The hammer goes a lot faster, so we end up using that, and then make it down to a treasure floor, get a purple slime egg, although we'll probably have to trash it if our inventory gets full. And then we also look for a hole by clearing the rocks here, but unfortunately don't get any, and then head on down to the next floor where we find a few slimes with some hearts in it, so we will try to slay them, but you will notice I have to be very careful and pause the game frequently in order to make my way around the slimes and make sure I don't collide with them and take damage, because the damage from the slimes is quite a bit, but I am able to just get the hearts from the big slimes, and I'm going to ignore the little slimes because I'll definitely take damage from them if I try to deal with them, and I end up just skipping that floor because we were getting a bit overwhelmed with the enemies there and wanted to be safe. And this floor is a little bit nicer, not as many enemies. Same thing with this floor, although this is a long floor. I'd probably normally skip this floor, but again, I want to minimize the amount of staircases I use, so we will go ahead and try to get a ladder down from this floor. There aren't a lot of enemies, so we shouldn't be too worried about taking damage and getting low on health. What I like to do on these types of floors is walk around the whole floor to see if there's already a ladder or anything down, or a good cluster of rocks that I could explode. But it looks like there really isn't too much, so I am just gonna manually mine some of these rocks with my pickaxe. And it looks like we do get lucky here with the ladder down, so we'll go ahead and take that down right away. This floor is another one where we'd have to walk around a lot to see if there's already a ladder or anything, but there isn't a whole lot of enemies and there's a good amount of rocks, so I will go ahead and use the slingshot to try to get a ladder down, and even better, we get a hole. Now the thing with this challenge and holes is we will take damage from the holes and have no way to heal, so we do have to be careful on that, although if we find any more of those slimes we could get our health back, but we can't guarantee on that. This floor, there's a nice cluster of gold, so I will use my slingshot to try to get that gold, although it ends up colliding with the enemies, although it does damage, and I'm making good use of my smash attack here to keep those ghosts away from me, saving it for when they come close rather than just spamming it. Actually using a little bit of strategy here, which is a little bit unusual for me. Usually I just spam my hammer and hope that the enemies get slayed quickly, but you can see there we were able to take them out without taking any damage, which is nice. We just have to be careful and conserve that hammer smash attack for when we need it, most likely for when the enemies get close and we want them to get away from us, since it does do a good amount of knockback. Now you may have just noticed that our coffee buff has worn off, which means we have no additional speed. You can see we're moving very slow. I'm manually mining these rocks since there's not a whole lot of them. I might use my slingshot a little bit on these right here, go a little bit faster than mining, but look at how slow we're going. Hopefully we can get the speed boost from slaying this slime. We get a +2 speed boost, which puts us back at our normal speed. But we do just keep mining the rocks and hope for a ladder, although we're getting very unlucky. It's only floor 33 that we're on right now, 6 p.m. So we have 8 more hours, about half of the time we spent here since we got here around noon or after that. So we actually have a little bit more than half of the time we spent. So we should be able to make it to floor 100. We might have to use a few more crafted staircases, but if we get lucky like this and get the ladder right away, then maybe we'll be fine. You may have noticed on this floor I was able to expose a rock crab by shooting it with the master slingshot, so that's one way to know. And we could also shoot this one to see if it is, but it's not a rock crab, that's actually an iridium ore, so then I shoot the wall to try to get that. And there's quite a few rocks here, so I'm going to lay down a mega bomb, but with the mega bombs, they have such a large explosion radius, we have to get out of the way very fast for those, and especially with our low movement speed right now, since we don't have any speed buff, we need to be very careful. This floor already had a ladder, so we head straight to it, and now we're starting to find a good amount of iridium, so I will try to blow it up, although that one is a rock crab, so we'll probably just ignore that one. It looks like we exposed 2 rock crabs there. We'll go ahead and slay them real quick, get the speed buff, move a little bit faster, which is always nice. There is some gold here. We can blow up the dino and get some of that gold, and then use the slingshot to get the rest of it. We are doing pretty well on health, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm more worried about getting to floor 100 before we pass out, so I will just use a crafted staircase here. And then here we do get lucky with a ladder from the slingshot, and then we'll use the slingshot again and this time get a hole, so we are getting a bit more of a lucky streak here. almost halfway to floor 50. We're on floor 46 right now. We'll skip over a few more floors now until we get to floor 50. And here we're using the slingshot to collide with the walls and try to get the rocks that are near the walls, but we don't get a ladder for a while, and eventually we get one from mining a rock there. And then make it to this floor. There's a ghost which we shoot with our explosive ammo and explodes the iridium right there. And then I use a staircase because we're getting quite overwhelmed with the enemies here, so we just want to be careful on them. We're only at half health, so we do need to keep an eye on that. I use a mega bomb here, which is kind of risky, and I do take damage from that, unfortunately, since I didn't get far enough away. The mega bombs do have quite a big radius, and then we get a hole, and we take some more damage from that. It's a long floor, so I just used a staircase on that. And then on this floor, we've got some iridium, so I pick those off with the explosive ammo. And I keep making use of the slingshot because I think the slingshot is the most valuable tool for us right now. It allows us to safely destroy rocks and even deal damage to enemies without taking damage, since we can do it from a distance. I skip over some more floors. We're on floor 63 now, where we find a large floor, which I would usually skip this kind of floor, but there's quite a bit of iridium, so we can make use of that slingshot and try to pick off all of these iridium nodes and go around. It looks like we get a hole, which is very nice. We'll see how much floors this drops us. 8 floors, so that does hurt a bit. We're getting low on health, and I will just use a crafted staircase here because there's a mummy right there, and I don't want to risk trying to slay the mummy. That mummy could probably one-shot us right now, and of course, whenever I'm facing downward, I'm at a greater risk because it's harder to hit enemies when I'm facing down rather than up or left or right. And then we use another staircase on the spiral floor, and then find ourselves on this floor. We use our explosive ammo to try to get that serpent away from us, and it did get us a hole by exploding the rock, so that was convenient. A nice power play right there, and then we make it down to floor 78. I'm gonna just skip this floor since we're only at 12 health and there's a serpent, so we gotta be careful with that. This floor, I'm going to see if we can explode that iridium and get any ladder down, but we don't, so I'm just going to use a crafted staircase because that ghost was right on us over there. This floor looks like it's clear of enemies, so we have a little bit of a breather here. I'm going to use a regular bomb as opposed to a mega bomb because I'm not confident that I can get away from the mega bomb quick enough, although I probably could have in this situation. There was a straight line to the left of that bomb, but we do get a ladder from that, making it to floor 81. Still have 19 floors left to go. We get our first prismatic shard of this dive, and things are starting to get pretty intense. We take the hole down. We're probably at 1 health now. There's some iridium here. Let's see if we can get a ladder or a hole. We get a hole, and we are probably at 1 health, and that definitely put us at 1 health now, since the thing with holes is we can't actually get knocked out from them, which is nice. So even if we're at 1 health and we take a hole down, it won't do any damage to us. Although, since we're at 1 health now, any sort of damage from a bomb, our explosive slingshot, or an enemy will instantly knock us out. And we have no way to heal unless we come across any more slimes, but we can't count on that. We have 10 more floors to go. I'm going to skip this floor because I don't trust that mummy. We get a freebie here with a treasure floor. Let's see if that 1 rock above the treasure chest will give us a hole. If it does, that would make things nice, but nope, just a ladder. We're gonna continue down, and we have to be very careful here. Make sure we pause right when we enter the floor. We are able to pick off these iridium nodes pretty safely. That serpent hasn't noticed us yet, which is nice. And we're still not getting anything. I'm gonna collect that iridium real quick, and that serpent noticed me, so I just used a staircase down. I have to make sure I keep my distance by using the slingshot and make sure I don't accidentally hit a wall that's too close to me and take damage. I'm gonna use another staircase because, again, any sort of damage would knock me out right away, so I have to be extremely careful. Same thing here, I don't trust the mummies. In this floor here, we find a slime that has a heart in it, but I don't trust myself to try to take out that slime and get that heart, so I am going to just try to mine this iridium. Although that one's definitely a rock crab, I still go for it anyway and use the slingshot here to uncover it. And I decided to just use a staircase because I don't want to deal with that crab, just to be safe. There's a serpent on this floor right here, so we'll probably skip this one, and it takes a while to walk all the way to the right anyway. This floor right here, we don't see any enemies, so we're safe for now. There's some iridium, so we'll go ahead and use the slingshot to try to get that iridium. And it looks like there's some more iridium to the left and down, so we'll keep going after that until we get a ladder down, and then we'll definitely head down right away. Looks like there's no enemies on this floor, so that's nice. We don't have to worry. We get a little bit of a breather here, although we have to be careful with using our explosive slingshot because we still can accidentally hit a wall that's too close to us and then deal damage to ourselves. It looks like there was already a ladder on this floor, although we can get some more iridium real quick, so I'll lay down a bomb. That'll blow up 4 nodes for us, so that's a decent chunk of iridium right there. I make sure to give myself plenty of space from that bomb, and I did hear a bat, so let's get out of here before that bat comes. We're on floor 98, 2 more floors to go. We'll keep using the slingshot. The slingshot does seem to be the safest and most efficient tool to use for this challenge, and there is already a ladder, so we'll head down to that. Although I don't trust this slime. I'm gonna mine some rocks to avoid taking damage from that slime. We're on the final floor here and there's a serpent coming right at us, so I use a slingshot to try to keep it away. And then I'm just gonna use a crafted staircase, which will make it down to floor 100 now. I know I used quite a few crafted staircases on those last 10 or so floors there, but that was mainly just because we're on 1 health and we're running out of time in the day. So you did notice I had to be extra careful to make sure I didn't take any kind of damage. Earlier in the run, we weren't as careful since we could take some damage since we had a full health bar, and then we were able to heal from the slime heart pickups that we got. And now, of course, since we made the floor 100, it completed the key challenge, and now we can eat some salads to restore our health. And for the rest of the day here, we will just be continuing down Skull Cavern as a normal dive, and then just collect as much iridium ore and other resources as we can. We did start this dive and challenge at 1 p.m. today, and finished at 11:30 p.m., meaning it took us 10.5 hours, which is pretty decent time. For the majority of this dive, we used our normal Skull Cavern strategies, but focused more on avoiding enemies than slaying them, and when we had to slay them, we were extra careful and made good use of the hammer's smash attack and knockback to not take any damage. The purple slime's heart pickups were also helpful when we were low on health, and we were able to restore some from those, and bombs were also very useful, and we had to just make sure we did not take any damage from their explosions. The most valuable tool was definitely the master slingshot with explosive ammo. It allowed us to knock back enemies with it in those danger situations, and of course also allowed us to clear rocks to find ladders and holes very quickly, and exploding the rocks from a distance kept us safe from taking damage. We also used some crafted staircases on troublesome floors, but I definitely think we should try this challenge again on another day where we have the whole day for the challenge, and that time we will try to make it to floor 100 on Key's Hungry Challenge without using any crafted staircases. We can also make up some more challenges for Skull Cavern to do just for fun, so if anybody has any challenge ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. And you could also comment below anything else you'd like to share. I always appreciate your comment. In the next video, our oak resin tappers and starfruit wine kegs will be ready for a cycle. We'll have another harvest of starfruit and rhubarbs, and we'll spend some time in the danger in the deep mines to try to grind the enemies for some valuable loot. If you are looking forward to future videos, please consider subscribing so you can be sure to see them when they come out. And as always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.